In the last episode, I decided to move to a brand new area and start working on a nuclear power station. Wait a minute, what's that? He pronounced nuclear the American way? Fake British!
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture.
Nuclear.
Because the power station I want to build is going to be nuclear.
Nuclear.
Start working on a nuclear power station.
Nuclear.
Because the power station I want to build is going to be nuclear.
Nuclear.
Start working on a nuclear power station.
Nuclear. 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 Nuke.
They're the same picture.
Why are you the way that you are?
Yes, that's right, nuclear. We're going to be using radioactive thorium to generate a whole bunch of power. And also, last episode, I went to the end and got a whole bunch of end stuff that I don't really know what to do with, including some shiny elytra and some eternal crystals. But I don't need those right now because right now it's time to get cracking on with this power station. So now that my pockets are empty, everything's tidy, I've popped down a waystone here, which is just across the road from our power station. And in order to make a nuclear power station, I'm going to need a whole bunch of thorium, which is from the Create New Age add-on. Now, thorium itself can be mined, but you can also generate thorium from thorium. But in order to do that, you need stone and clay and water and mix it all together, and then you get 2 thorium. So basically, once we've got a bit of thorium, which I already have, we can start doubling it up as long as we've got a stone and a clay farm and a water source. Which means we're probably going to need a refinement center as part of this power station, which means we're probably going to need power to power the refinement station, and we're going to also have to do something with this island to flatten it out to make it buildable-onable. And those are definitely words.
Nuclear.
Once we've refined down our thorium, we're then going to put it through some crushing wheels, and we're going to have a 10% chance of getting radioactive thorium, which we then use to make nuclear fuel. For that, we're going to need iron sheets, so we're going to need another iron farm. And in order to get enough of this, because there's only a 10% chance, we're going to need an absolute ton of thorium, so our thorium refinement center is going to have to be producing an awful lot of thorium. Geez, we're going to need a big one. So I think first things first, what we need to do is completely clear out this island, make it usable, and start considering how we're going to build all of this. Now, I could just use a mining machine to flatten the entire thing down, but then it's going to be, well, very low down. What I actually want to do is, I don't know, some sort of ridge or wall around it that we can have pipes coming out with all of the radioactive fluid leaking into the rivers and killing all of the wildlife. That sounds like the sort of thing that I'd like to do. You want to kill the wildlife? Well, it's just for show. It's not real, guys. It's Minecraft. Don't worry about it. And there we go. We now have a very flat looking island with a lot of rubbish around the outsides, but plenty of space to work on. Although I still need to bring the top section out to the edges and build the walls around the outside, but at least we've got something to start with, right? And I think we're going to start with building our little building that's going to be housing our thorium refinery. And I guess we should probably... See, I've got an idea of how I want the power station. So my idea is we're going to have like 3 big smokestacks, or maybe 2 big smokestacks. And I realise they're for steam, not smoke. And then a big old building in front of it, which I've got an idea in my head of a design from, and within that I want all of the processes and everything that's going to be going on with that. Which means building a little building for a thorium refinery is probably not the best thing to do, because I want it in with all of that. But I don't feel like this is a good point in this video to start building the actual big old power station. So maybe we need something temporary to start with that we can then build on later. Or maybe I need to bite the bullet and get on with the jobs that I need to be doing. Perhaps a building one can help me out at this point. And I'm pretty sure I had one of those kicking about somewhere, just not entirely sure where. So I'm going to have to build one, which is a nice easy thing to do. So all I need to do is get my stick and do that and put that on there, and then if I go into my little area around here, I can then upgrade that to a netherite building wand. And I'm pretty sure I just wasted some netherite there, but let's see what this thing can do. Let's take a base material that we can use for getting some foundations down. So we'll take a whole bunch of tuff. We'll head back over to the power station and let's make some circles. So I want to place circles. I don't need them filled. I don't know if they need to be even, but what I do need them to be is the size that I want them to be. So if I put that in my offhand, I don't want it just in the ground. Okay, how do do I make them place above the ground? Drop on player, drop on block. I feel like I might need to go in a test world to figure this out. Okay, so here in this nice little flat world that we can make a mess of, if I click there... No. Click there. No. Okay, maybe I need a block down first to set this. There we go. So then I can just sort of drag out. I understand. So then if I was to, say, click there, then I get a circle. Okay, I understand how that works now. That's actually nice and easy. If I do it filled... and I click on that and then drag it out. Yes, it fills it in. Okay, that's good as well then. And I guess even means that it's going to be an even middle rather than an odd middle. So let's try another one over here and then put that down and make a small one. Yeah, that's going to do a 2 by 2. Okay, right. So let's turn even off and then change the plane. I can get it to go up and down or side to side. Okay, yep, that's good. The axis on there doesn't seem to matter and the rotation doesn't seem to matter and the drop on player and block doesn't seem to matter. Okay, we know how to make circles now. I can go and get some power station stuff put in place. So back on the main world then, if I was to, for instance, put down a block there, and then drag that out and bring that to, I guess, around about that sort of size. Is that going to be the right sort of size for a steam stack at the bottom? That's still going to be pretty big. That'll probably end up sort of around at this point up here. It probably wants to be bigger than that, I think. Now, how do I get rid of it all? Destroy area. Oh, there we go. And then I need I need a tool. Okay, wand menu. Let's put my pickaxe in there then. There we go, get it all back. Fantastic. My tool has taken durability damage, but it's not too bad. So let's work out how big we want this thing then. So from this block here to this block here is 21 blocks, which means the overall power circle thing would be 42 blocks. So let's just pop that down. That looks like a more substantial base for a smokestack, but then that's going to be absolutely huge. But that feels probably more right in terms of the overall size of this thing. And I think that gives us enough room to the side to put another one there, but that is going to limit us a little bit in terms of the actual building that I'm going to be making. But I feel that's probably about right. So let's come over here a little bit and pop another one down. So that's 21 to there. Click that on there. Bring this over to here. And this should be the same size as the other one, although apparently I've run out of tuff. And that it feels a little bit far away though. Oh, geez. So let's try that again, but a little bit closer to this one. We do want it staggered back in this direction a little bit. So if I come out, say 50 blocks from here, that should work. 50 blocks might even be too far. So let's go 48 from there. Now I just want to go 21 blocks out from there. So this should be the circle. So if I click on there and bring it out to here, how does that look? It's way too far away. What am I thinking? I'm going to need a minute. That looks a bit better. We've got space down the side to get through, and now we've got two big old circles next to each other, and that leaves me the front here to have a very big circle. Because yes, this power station I'm going to be building is going to be built around a circle. But how big do I want my circle to be? I don't know. So all I'm going to do is go somewhere midway between here and just place down a whole bunch of blocks until I feel like this is half the size I want it, and then build a big old circle around that. That's 64 blocks to there, which is pretty big. I probably want it this way slightly as well, maybe, but if I go somewhere in the middle of that, we should be okay. I think that sort of size could work, and that sort of position's fine, and I think this power station is going to need other little buildings and things around it, because of course it is actually going to need power to power it initially, so we're going to need a power station to power the power station before we can power the power station. So we've got space over here to put a little steam power station in here at some point, and I think around the side of this building we'll probably have like square bits coming off with little rooms and stuff like that, but I want the sort of main core of the power station probably to be somewhere in the middle of this with rooms around the outside. We'll probably have our little steam power station over here to power the power station, and then we'll probably have some other stuff, maybe all of the electrical components and things that we need to send the power across to the main area over here somewhere. Now in terms of these smokestacks, it's going to be relatively easy to build these things up. I'm going to be using a gradient of different types of stone and tuff and things like that to build them, but that should just be circles on circles on circles going quite high up into the sky. And once we've got one, we'll be able to copy paste that over to that one with the schematic cannon. But this building's going to be completely different, and I haven't planned it out yet, which for a building of this size and scope I kind of need to do. So we're not going to worry about that just yet, which means I think we should probably start with a little tiny building to the side for our steam power station, and then we can put our thorium refinery in there. Hopping back into my flat world, I've been fiddling with these steam towers. Taking a little bit of inspiration from Google, generally speaking, they seem to be a little bit dirty around the top and then sort of fade to sort of a yellowy colour, so I've gone with limestone. I've tried to do a little bit of blending at the top in order to sort of make that fade into the limestone, and I'm not really sure the limestone kind of works. I did try tough down here, which kind of looks okay, but it looks very bland. It needs something to retexture the whole thing, and I also tried the smooth limestone instead of the sort of normal limestone as well, but I think I do prefer the normal limestone, but I think the whole thing just needs breaking up a bit, which is a big job because this thing is absolutely massive. So I think I'm going to carry on working on this in my spare time so that I've got a copy of this I can import to the world, but in terms of shape I think it's okay. And speaking of shape and size, of course this thing is absolutely humongous on the inside, and seems though this is a steam tower, maybe we should have the steam engines in here. Or maybe not, I don't know. Regardless, back on the world, I have brought a few of the bits and bobs over with me, and I've also brought a whole bunch of different types of blocks with me, and I've started laying out a little bit of a foundation for where I was going to put the steam power plant, and I think this is probably big enough to do that. Now, because nuclear power stations tend to be very grey and white and boring, I'm going to be making most of these things relatively grey and white and boring, but I do want to have a really interesting emphasis on the main building, and it's going to have a bit of colour on there as well. But before we get to that, I need to start making myself a whole bunch of different types of tough blocks so that I can craft the foundations, make it look all nice and pretty, get the foundations down, and then come up with an overall design for these buildings. And I want these buildings to look relatively modern, a little bit like in this picture we've got here. And I could end up using a whole bunch of concrete to do that, but I'm going to try my best to do it out of stone and stone variants, just because I've got an absolute ton of those, and I think it would probably look better, maybe, possibly. We'll see. We'll find out. After a little bit of jiggery-pokery, we've now got a limestone building with these little gaps down the side to give it some texture and variation. We've got some fans and aerial things on the roof, and it's relatively plain and simple. I've got a little loading bay at the front here and some glass either side. Inside there is absolutely nothing at all, and I think this would have benefited from being made out of concrete. I think that would have looked nice as opposed to the limestone, but it also would have looked quite plain. And if our big towers are going to be all sort of variated and gradiented, having a stark contrast of a very plain sort of concrete building I don't think would have looked too good together. So what I need to do now is put in a couple of steam engines. But what are those steam engines going to run off? Obviously we're going to need lava pumping into them, which means we're going to need a big old lava source. And I could build a big old infinite lava source underground, link it up with the nether and steal a whole bunch of lava out of there. But once the nuclear power plant is up and running, that's going to be taking over the power production, which means this thing's relatively temporary. So I think just another little dripstone lava farm will do the job, and I could probably squeeze that in here as well. Maybe get one at the back over here and just a steam engine at the front, because we don't need too much power to get us going right now, I don't think. That being said, if I'm going to be doing a dripstone lava farm, I probably don't want it inside of that building, because I think this building would look a lot better if it was just sort of an industrial power plant, i.e. just steam engines and things like that going on, rather than having a big old dripstone farm taking up most of the space, which means I probably need another building to put the dripstone stuff in, which I really really wasn't planning to do today. If I'm making a building that's going to have a dripstone lava farm in it, it's going to need to be relatively close to that one, probably where I've put my beacon. But without having built the main building yet, I really don't know what sort of space I'm going to be having. So perhaps it would be better just to build the dripstone lava farm underneath all of this where it's disguised and out of the way, and just pump the lava up as if it's being pumped up from underground. I think that makes more sense. The problem is though, I've only got 49 pointed dripstone, so I'm going to need a bunch more of that, so I'm going to have to take that as well as some of this actual dripstone in order to make a dripstone farm, so that then I can make more pointed dripstone and make a lava farm, which means I'm going to need buckets of water too, but fortunately where we're working has plenty of water. So first of all, I'm going to dig a little temporary area underneath this thing, get a dripstone farm in place, and then once I've got a bit more dripstone, I can turn it into a lava farm. And it should be pretty much the same farm. So let's actually build it from in here. Let's take, I guess, this point here as the little access to the basement. Let's dig down a few blocks, not too far, and then we'll just dig out a big old room down here, ready for the lava farm. Well, for 2 hours of growing, I was expecting a little bit more than what we've got, but I suppose this is going to be more than we need, so let's just break a whole bunch of this off, ideally. Do we get the whole thing if I break that? I think so. And now I can finish off all of the dripstone underneath, making sure every single spot has got one, which I believe it has. And now I just need a whole bunch of basins, a whole bunch of pipe, and a couple of steam engines. How hard could it be? Basins. We might as well have 64 of those and get all of those put underneath. And I think we can just click on the underneath like this, but I feel like I actually want it down one level. It does seem a little bit high up. And there we go, that's all of the basins in, and now I need to tear all of this to shreds, get rid of all the water, and put this down a level. And here we go. We now have 3 level 4 boilers, and each one has only 3 steam engines on it, which is a little bit of a waste, but there we go. And I've laid them out like this just because I wanted to do something a little bit more different, a little bit more interesting, and I think each one works. It's nicely balanced, but yeah, I feel like I should have another steam engine on each one to actually get the most out of it, but even just like this is generated as 147,000 SU, which is plenty, and yes, these glasses look stupid. And downstairs, not a great deal has changed other than the fact that we've now got our lava farm. Of course, these didn't want to be basins, they all needed to be cauldrons, which I've now switched out, and yes, none of them are full, but the machinery is keeping up, so we are pumping enough up there. This isn't dry, but so far it seems on average we're generating enough lava to keep all of those blaze burners going. We've got a few water wheels here powering the pumps to get the water and the lava up there, and we might as well just make these look a little bit... Where's the pump on that one? There was definitely a... What? We're doing all this with one pump? I could have sworn that had a pump. It's got water in it, but I guess that was... Okay. We don't need this pipe then. Ah! Oh dear, we did need that one. Oh no, it's waterlogged. Oh jeez. Oh, apparently I've smashed all my water wheels to bits as well. Oh, this is all going so well. How did you fall off? Overstressed? Of course you're overstressed. You haven't got enough stuff. There we go. So apparently I'm pumping all of that water up there with one pump, but this thing is on full speed, so I'm not surprised. So let's go and check it back out at the top, making sure it's all still actually going. Put my stupid goggles back on. Yep, full speed, full speed, full speed. And yes, I know I could combine all of these into one boiler and just have one big one, but I kind of like it how it's set up like this. And I think it could be fun just to have these extra ones sticking out the front here. Let's get some shafts on those and see what it looks like. They do stick out quite far into the room, but if we can find a way to combine all of those together with those ones and generate all of the power together, that should give us a bunch more SU. So let's just get rid of those for a second. Let's get rid of that and that. If we turn that into a horizontal gearbox like that, and then bring this across the top here, we can then add a vertical gearbox on there, bring that down to there, and then potentially join these together with another vertical gearbox there. Is it spinning the right way? It is. Let's join those together, bring that down to there, put our little stress meter on it, and rotate it, I guess. And now we're generating 196,000 SU. That should be more than enough to get us started in this area. But now this beam at the front looks kind of weird. I feel like it needs supporting. So let's grab a little bit of girder from there, stick a bit there, a little bit more there, and stick it there, and maybe even bring this down to the floor so it all feels a little bit more solid and secure. That works. Let's do the same at this side. And then one there, put a little bit of shaft in it, and there we go. it all works rather nicely. Feel like this needs some sort of support though, and if I put another set of girders in along there, it will work, but it looks a bit odd. But then I could put my metal brackets underneath and it would look a bit better. If I got them in the right place at least. I'm not sure about that bit. We'll just leave that bit float. Oh, actually, what about girders off the floor like that, and then a little bracket on top. That kind of works. So there we go. We now are fully powered, ready to power the power station, which is not going to be powered by that. It's going to be powered by something else, but at least that gives us enough power to start refining that thorium in the next episode.